28 minutes of bad financial advice that could destroy your wealth by Zac Rios. Now, I did work in finance for a brief period of time, about a year plus. Not a financial advisor. Anything I say should not be treated as financial advice. And that does duly go so for what I'm assuming some of the advice is going to be from these individuals in these clips. Watched a couple of Zac Rios videos. Honestly, he does put out a lot of really great content. So I figured let's do something that I'm a little familiar with and see what ye olde people on the Funny app have been saying about finance.
Here's why you should never pay off your house.
If you're a guy in your 20s and you don't have a Lamborghini, you should actually sit down and have like a serious discussion with yourself.
So I measure time. I've compressed and condensed time. I've bent it.
Okay, so today is going to be a good one. We're going to be looking at some bad TikTok financial advice. With the amount of gurus that yap on every podcast you could think of, we end up with some pretty insane clips. I think this one's going to be more of a fun video because people are starting to wake up and realize how full of crap these grifters are just to sell you a course. But I mean, I guess it works at the end of the day because they wouldn't be constantly pumping out these podcasts and clips and viral moments, whatever you want to call it, out for anybody in the world to see if it didn't end up making them money. And that's
No, hear me out. It's just the brute force approach, right? What do I have? 1.7k videos right now. It's just the brute force approach. As it turns out, if you put out like 1,000 videos, something potentially can stick.
where their actual wealth comes from, not from any of the things that they're trying to teach you. So we have a lot of examples to go over today, along with some of your comments from previous videos. So if you want to be featured in a future video, leave it in the comments down below. But let's start off with this one. If you don't have a Lamborghini in your 20s, apparently you're a failure.
If you're a guy in your 20s and you don't have a Lamborghini, you should actually sit down and have like a serious discussion with yourself as to why you don't have a Lambo.
Yep.
Because I realize now that it's so incredibly easy and there's so much money out there, and 200 grand relative to what is out there in circulation and what you can grab, especially now with AI tools that you can leverage like never before, 200 grand is chump change.
So yeah, you need a Lamborghini to consider yourself successful. Also in your 20s. If you get it in your 30s, nope, failure. If you get a Ferrari or Mercedes, something like that, failure. And then the easiest way to justify grabbing just $200,000 with all the cash circulating around the world is leveraging AI tools. I don't think you could get any more of a broad statement than that. Didn't you guys realize you could just leverage AI tools and then boom, checks just start rolling in, 6 figures, 7 figures, you name it. And most likely not a surprise to you, almost everyone we're going to see in this video has a course that they're trying to sell people. So at the end of the day, you're just paying for his Lamborghini, not leveraging AI tools. We have a pretty depressing comment from one of you guys, honestly. My family member is addicted to sports betting. He was sad in confessing to us that he lost his retirement fund and was saying he just didn't get it because he listened to so many podcasts and YouTubers and he did everything right. He fully believes that if he keeps trying, he can recoup all of his losses and make a lot of money. We hear that a lot amongst gambling addicts. They'll quit as soon as they break even again, and they never break even. But it seems like his family member did watch all of these podcasts, most of the alpha male money and girls and buying all these cars and mansions and whatever, and unfortunately took it very seriously and lost everything, because there are tons of grifters out there making it look like they win all the time on sports betting. All you got to do is join my community and I'll give you my picks. And the result of that is this comment, unfortunately.
Here's why you should never...
So before we get into the next, I'm going to try to make sure I'm splitting this into sections as much as I can. So I would love to know if this individual touting, you should get a Lambo in your 20s, if they have in any way, shape, or form affiliation, sponsorship, any incentive from Lamborghini, because, something should be disclosing things like that. Look, at the end of the day, even if I had the money, I wouldn't buy a Lambo. I wouldn't buy a mortgage on wheels. You want to know why? Because you're driving a mortgage on wheels, and all it takes is one person who says, nah, I can drive with 1 or 2 beers in me. I'll be fine. And then suddenly an underinsured or uninsured motorist just slams into you. And there goes your entire thing. The things that they don't tell you, your insurance is going to be astronomical in comparison, okay? If you get like a 2008 used sedan, 100,000 miles, right? Insurance is generally going to be a little less than getting a sports car, right? So you already have insurance you have to deal with. upkeep and maintenance, especially if it's going to have some sort of, you have to, I know there's certain like luxury car brands that you don't technically own, you kind of rent. I don't know if that's Ferrari, Lambo, I don't know who that is specifically. You'd have to check. It's dealer, dealer by dealer, case by case, right? You're already dealing with that. I mean, it is an image thing, right? Yeah, if I were to do an IRL bit where I had my camera and I rolled up and say, I don't know, a 93 Honda Accord, if that's the year, I don't remember what year my old one was, or roll up in a 2013 Chevy Cruze versus rolling up in a Lambo, right? These are going to have different things that this relays to your audience. Like, you can understand the image thing, but is the cost worth it, right? Or would the financially responsible thing to be, look, I'm perfectly fine paying $8,000 to $12,000 for a sedan that works, that's under 100,000 miles. I don't have to worry about any of the subscription stuff that GM or Volkswagen are throwing out there, right? More modern automobiles. And it's just one of those things where, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, for me personally, I can write something off on this, especially because we do know the internet is fake. I am learning more and more about this, as when somebody says something, I'm like, oh yeah, clearly they mean it, right? Or if somebody, is able to travel as a travel influencer, or someone's able to, have all the designer handbags and stuff, it's like, oh, well, I assume they just have it. And I don't see the part of the internet, which he's done a good job outlining in many of his videos, that I guess there are services where you can like rent mansions for like $90 an hour, or like you can have like Chanel bags shipped to you, and then you can like do a thing with them, and then you can send them on back as long as it's in pretty good condition still, right? And it's like, it just doesn't compute to me. Who has time for this? But clearly, I mean, these are large influencers who, seemingly have vast reserves of money, who can do stuff like this, buy a Lambo in their 20s. I don't have time or effort for that. I would much rather be genuine. I would much rather come out and have discussions and be honest, because it's not worth it to me. It's not worth it to fake it. It's not worth it to have this persona that people believe in certain things. That's why there's been frustrations when I'm perceived in certain ways that I'm not, right? I don't know. Like this is very much is one of those. It kind of turns my brain smooth when I hear individuals talk about, the entire reasoning behind, well, you need to have a talk with yourself, right? And it's like, you don't have to have a Lambo. Like, for all intents and purposes, having a car that's 15 years old and having it paid off with no car payment, financially, in my opinion, is just going to be better than having a Ferrari you're paying on over the next 72, 84, 90 months, right? Something like that, right? Especially if you're getting the payments that are over, $800 to $1,000 a month, right? Who's in the better position financially? You bought the car outright. You own the car. You're not rolling over negative. Well, let's say if you don't want a Lambo. Let's say you want a Ferrari next, right? Are you going to roll over negative equity into the Ferrari? Like, you might have the income, but debt is still debt for all intents and purposes.
Or pay off your house. Here's your house. It's worth $100,000. That's what this stack is worth. And you've been told by Dave Ramsey and other people, I got to get my house paid off because I'm going to be financially free. False. Most people will accelerate getting their house paid off by throwing extra money on their 30-year mortgage. And maybe after 20 years, you do it. You finally wipe it out. You own your house free and clear. I got news for you. What do you have for retirement? You got nothing for retirement because you put all your focus in getting your house paid off. Instead, mortgage that house, access the majority of this money. You know what I'd use it for? I'd go buy 5 more houses. Imagine those.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, I'm actually face palming. See, but this is the thing. This is the same individual. This is an individual who will take out a HELOC, the equity, a line of credit using the equity against the house, and use the HELOC to buy other houses, and then use the equity in those to buy more houses, and suddenly they're underwater. And you're like, man, I wonder why that is. That sounds like a really stupid thing to do. Oh, by the way, when a HELOC comes due, you owe all of the money on those HELOCs as a balloon payment. You don't get to renegotiate. Well, you can technically, if they approve you for an extension on the HELOC, like if they approve you for a new HELOC, right? Because it's a line of credit that's good for X number of years, right? Sure, then maybe you could do something like that. But asking on HELOCs when I worked in finance, guess what happens when your HELOC comes due? If you have $100,000 on that HELOC, you owe them $100,000 on that HELOC. You owe that as a balloon payment, and I don't think people understand that. So you're gonna throw yourself, you're gonna sink yourself underwater in so much debt, right? Really? Bro, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand the mentality here. But I'm also fortunate enough to have worked in finance, and I was good at what I did. I wasn't a loan officer, right? I did prep people for loans. I did talk to them about credit. I did deal with things like PMI. Specifically, when I worked, I believe it was 80% loan to value was when PMI, about 78 to 80% was when you could negotiate. I think 78% it fell off specifically. Not that I can, not that I will say where I worked or who I worked for, because that is private information. But I mean, like, I was fairly good at what I did, and some of the things in finance just made my head spin. Like, I understand what he's trying to say, and obviously obfuscating details. I did have a family member, and this was a point of conversation literally this weekend, where this family member ended up passing away fairly recently. But they bought their house in, I think, 1950 or 60, somewhere in there. I don't remember, but they got it for, I think, $60,000, and they ended up what was it? It wasn't refinance. I think they kept like remortgaging it. I don't remember what the specific term is. I don't remember what it was specifically. But like, so by the end of things, he ends up passing away, and this house that they sell for $700,000, they only get like $200,000 out of it because they owed $500,000 on the house. And it's like, at what point do you look at this and go, sure, you don't get the tax write-off from paying your mortgage. I understand that. I understand. No, because refinance is different. Refinance is like I owe, say, $10,000 on a car, and I'm getting it, it's an interest rate of like, so $10,000, let's say it's, $1,000 a month to pay for it. I'm just throwing numbers out here, and it's at like 8%. But then my credit score goes up, and I can refinance that to, cool, well, you owe, $9,000 on the car now, and, we can extend these payments over, the same amount of time, and now you're paying a little bit less, and you have a little bit of interest rate. I think it's either a reverse mortgage or a second mortgage. I don't remember which specifically they did. Anyways, but at what point do you say, yes, there is a tax incentive, as I understand it, to keep paying your mortgage, especially because you do still have things like escrow. But at what point do you look at this and go, that's dumb? That is so incredibly dumb to just drown yourself in that much debt. Don't get me wrong, I buy stupid stuff consistently, okay? I buy really dumb stuff. But it's like, wow, why do you need 5 houses, my guy? 3 should be the max. House 4 and 5 should be taxed up the wazoo. Like, there are people struggling out here to buy a single house.
First 5 houses are each cash flowing $500 a month. But a few years later, you're going to sell those 5 for 15 more. And you're going to sell those 15 for 50 more. Now imagine $500 coming off of every one of those houses.
So you're not supposed to pay off, on average, your most expensive purchase you're going to make in your entire life, because it is so easy to take money out of your first house and go buy 5 more, and then 15, and then 50. Maybe this was a viable option if you already had a good amount of money during 2020, during COVID.
Yeah.
Interest rates were super low, and maybe it worked. But now 5 years later, mortgages are wildly more expensive than they were, and there are quite a bit of people mad at those landlords taking all of the houses right now because nobody could afford them. On top of it, in this climate, it is not as nearly as easy to just become a landlord and buy those 5 houses and have tenants that will never break anything, never cause issue, always have payments on time, and then I guess you could just ride off in the sunset. There are no issues ever. We could look at some of the comments. Heck no, house paid off. Retirement is much easier with no mortgage payments. Paid it off, best thing that I ever did. There are many comments like this, and we've seen this guy a few times on this channel. He's just another one of the kind of copies of Grant Cardone, the exact same cookie cutter videos as every other guru, him jumping out of a BMW i8 trying to sell you his course. But we have another comment from one of you guys. You're absolutely right about successful people not sharing how they make money. I have an online side hustle and make decent money, but I do not tell anyone how or where I get my stock. I don't want the competition, and more importantly, no one told me how to do it. I discovered it myself. Therefore, if I had to do that, everyone else could as well.
Honestly, I respect it, though. I 100% respect the hustle. As long as it's not insider trading, as long as it's legal, it ain't my business. It's none of my business. If I wanted to do something like that, I would front the capital. I would make sure to do the research, right? That is incredibly fair. And we've talked about it in like MMOs and stuff. I always bring up, there was a brief period of time in RuneScape where cut onyxes sold more than uncut onyxes. So I didn't make the most amount of profit, but what did I do? I didn't tell anybody about it. I bought a 50 or so some odd Onyxes, and then cut them up and then sold them, and I made a decent bit of profit, right? And obviously that's game funny money, right? But it's like then the market ends up seeing an influx, and I would bet that bots were looking at that because they adjusted really quickly when I was doing that. I guarantee you that there's bots and stuff that ended up watching marketplaces like this, especially IRL money, right? So stuff like that might be a little harder to do IRL, but like you don't tell someone about that. People will not tell others how they found this sort of like life hack, or if they found a way to do it, because suddenly that way gets picked up by these influencers, and suddenly that way doesn't quite work anymore, right? Like that's an incredibly fair thing to bring up. Honestly, paying off your house, right? Like it's like, sure, you have to deal with your escrow and stuff because your escrow takes care of your taxes and stuff, right? Sure, you no longer have an escrow once your mortgage is paid off. Sure, you no longer have the tax benefit of that, right? But you know what? Your house is paid off. You're paying what? Property tax? Is it easier to pay like a yearly? Well, and it also depends on the area, right? Because some areas are going to have higher property taxes than others, right? Are you going to pay, say $5,000 a year versus, let's just say $1,000 to be fairly middle of the road? $1,000 for a mortgage, that's still pretty low, right? Are you going to pay $5,000 a year or $12,000 a year? Right? $1,000 per month, or about maybe $5,000 upper limit of things, right? In certain areas, I'm throwing numbers out there. What would you rather pay a year? Would you rather forego the tax write-off and pay the lesser amount, or would you rather continue to pay on a house, and if something happens, you're kind of up the creek without a paddle, right? Me personally, yeah, I would pay off the house. That's me personally.
That was on a previous video with me talking about these grifters selling you the real estate life or the day trading life, the sports betting, whatever they're trying to show. If it truly worked and they made that much money off of it, they wouldn't want to teach anybody else how to do it. It would just breed competition. It would be better to do it in complete silence and make your millions, tens of millions of dollars. But it's much easier in this day and age to make it look like you know what you're talking about on a podcast or online in general, instead of actually finding a niche and genuinely making that kind of money. Now, this next clip, I think, is a result for having to be on podcasts all the time or making content just constantly, almost like the Gary V way of social media, where there's just so many posts and clips and photos just being pumped out into the void all the time that you don't even make sense at the end of the day.
Show me how long it takes you to order at a counter, and I will show you your bank account. People who take forever to order when they stand in line, one, are really comfortable inconveniencing somebody else around them, which means they have limited self-awareness, maybe borderline narcissism.
What?
And then simultaneously, they're not very efficient at the things that don't really matter. That coffee order does not really matter. And so if we know we are here for a finite amount of time, why spend so much time on that as opposed to a walk, a sunset, etc.? That's why they say you should take somebody to dinner before you hire them, or take them out to lunch, see how they treat the staff. But I also think, see how quickly they make decisions.
So if you don't make...
But there's differences in decision-making capability. Bro, so like I'm kind of guilty of it a little, because I'll show up to a 24-hour Mexican place around me, and like sometimes I'll sit there at the drive-through speaker for a minute. Like there's nobody around me, right? Like it's not like I'm inconveniencing somebody, but sometimes it takes me a second to order. I don't know what sounds good that night, right? Do I want, this burrito? Do I want that burrito? Am I thinking nachos tonight, right? Like loaded fries, right? Like especially if I haven't been to a restaurant before, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to take my time figuring out what I order, right? If I go and sit down at a sit-down, I sit down at IHOP, I sit down at Denny's, I sit down at Sherry's, right? I sit down at a sushi place, right? I'm going to compare and contrast prices. What is the most bang for your buck? Oh, hey, look at that. Anything steak, anything fish is going to be expensive. Well, actually, this French dip is pretty good, though. The BLT is a little expensive here. The burgers are kind of middle of the road, a little pricey. However, this would make sense for a sit-down environment. Plus, I got to add tip later. Okay, sounds like the French dip is going to be probably the best one. Actually, that's a really good price on that chicken sandwich. Oh, you mean there's a lunch special now? I'll have the chicken sandwich, right? Like, but this is supposed to be inefficient. Me finding the most optimal thing that fits my needs and taking a minute to reflect and think through it is inefficient. Just making sure I have that correct.
Decisions instantly, I guess you're poor. Because if I
Yeah.
walked up to Starbucks or whatever sort of fast food place and I instantly didn't know that I wanted some chicken tenders or the specific coffee drink, that I'm caring about something that's insignificant. I guess I should just get a black coffee, and even though I don't like it, I'll drink it anyway because it doesn't matter in the grander scope of life. Like, I do understand what she's trying to say at the end of the day, but not everything has to be philosophical. But those types of clips are what go viral on social media, so everything that's spewed out by all of these people just turns into a whole bunch of nonsense like this. Some of the comments here are great. People try to get on a mic and try to make some thought-provoking statements, but swing and miss way too often.
I've definitely had those moments. You kidding me? I've had a lot of those.
Girl, I'm just indecisive. Calm down. Joke's on you because it takes me 2 seconds and I'm in a debilitating amount of debt. I'm not a narcissist. I just forgot my glasses and can't read the damn menu.
That right there, that bottom comment right there.
Overall, I'd say I'm a more serious person than most, but it doesn't have to be this serious, man. It's crazy what people do and how they speak just to possibly get a viral moment on social media. We have another comment from one of you guys from a previous video. I'm 5 seconds in and seeing Adrian Peterson give advice is unbelievable. If you don't know who that is, he was a professional football player.
No
Despite
idea.
making $103 million in his career, he had to surrender assets to repay a $12 million debt. He was another one going on podcasts saying that he made a good amount of money off of penny stocks. So just knowing that and him
that
blowing
guy.
over $100 million in his career to being negative $12 million in debt could kind of tell you that you probably shouldn't take financial advice from him. But up next, we have a real easy way to write off all of your clothing on your taxes. You definitely won't get audited.
You see that?
All right, before we get into this next one, I mean, I guess what she's trying to say, she's trying to, and he touches on this a little bit too. If you are comfortable in your money and you're comfortable with decision making, you will be able to walk up and be able to make a decision / purchase, no qualms, right? I'm gonna walk up and yes, I would like the fish and chips. Yes, I would like the French dip, right? It's not that deep though, and I feel that this is saying correlation is causation, right? I don't feel that this is necessarily the best way to do that. And I had having this conversation recently because I did another Yu-Gi-Oh! Buy list. And it did a decent amount of money too. And I had a seller end up shipping me something. And once again, they just don't put enough stamps and they don't pay enough shipping. So I leave a negative review. Hey, I had to pay this much in shipping. The seller needs to make sure that they disclose this, when they sell a product. Otherwise, the cards arrive fine. And, I have the seller messaging me, hey, I'll give you the refund. Just make sure to, can you update your review? And I'm just like, no, this is my experience. The interaction is I buy the card, you sell the card, you ship the card, you provide the proper postage. The majority of my packages have zero issue with this. Like, my review stands. Oh, well, but we can't tell you added costs until, because I said just make sure you're disclosing all costs. Well, we don't know about that until it actually gets to you. And I'm just like, it's really weird to watch. If you want to have a really interesting existential crisis, like, even like not necessarily say doing it in a bad way, but watch as if you leave a negative review or have an honest, I didn't like this about my experience, how the immediate default will be to refund you. But if you actually say, no, I don't want to do that, there's a breakdown. Like people don't know how to actually problem solve at that point. But I'm giving you the refund. I don't want the refund. But I can give you the refund, and we don't know how this works until that happens. It is fascinating to watch people break down. It is fascinating to watch how... I don't know if it's because we're like refund pilled. I don't know if it's just how modern business works. People and companies have an inability to kind of take that criticism very much. Oh, I see negative review, instead of, hey, what's the issue here? Oh, well, just give you a refund. Just change your review. It's wild. But at the end of the day, it's like that's the transaction. That's the transaction at play there. I pay money for the thing. You provide the thing. You provide all the costs that you listed in your post. I get the thing. I'm happy. I don't bother you, right? That's it. That's the business. I don't know. It's kind of wild to see some of this. It's kind of wild to this mentality specifically, I mean, I guess, yeah, part of it could be because you're online all the time, but I'm online fairly consistently. Don't get me wrong. I have to step away. I have to take my breaks, right? I need to be doing that because I need to do other things with my life. I need to put the fries in the bag and I need to go do other things. Okay. I got plenty of Warhammer I have to paint. But it's just such a disconnect, and your average person, I feel, looks at this and they can't relate, and that in itself is its own form of like existential crisis. We're having a lot of those today.
Right there, Rondy Lambert, CEO of Fortress. I don't do this as an ego thing. The reason I'm doing this is so I can write off my clothes, because clothing is not tax deductible. But when you put your name on it or you put your signature on your shirt, it's now a uniform.
Go talk to your tax advisor.
So I get to write off the clothes, I get to write off the cleaning.
Bro can't even spell right. WRITE. Come on now. It's not RIGHT. You're writing the act of writing WRITE. WRITING. You're writing it off. What? Like, I know this is one of those things that you look at and it's like, well, Kip, it's the whole video. But this is one of those things. This does more to tank the credibility than really part of the video as well. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he's doing a good job at like trying to solicit tax advice, right? I'm assuming that he is absolutely a tax professional and that he has, you know, the merits and accolades and everything that goes with that to legally give tax advice. Absolutely. And he should be making those relevant disclosures because somebody could follow this advice and potentially sue him for that. I take finance incredibly seriously. That is why I make disclosures like I've done in the beginning. Talk to your tax professional. Talk to your financial advisor. Talk to your institution, right? Talk to people, right? Make the most educated decision for your situation. This man's just outright, well, this is now a uniform. You can just write this off. Wild.
And because I get to write it off, I get to save more of my own hard-earned money. If you want to learn more about how to pay less in taxes, send me a DM.
Every time you hear that at the end, send me a DM,
it's a
message
course.
me. It just funnels into another course that you have to pay way too much money for virtually no information. But yeah, if you just go grab a Sharpie and start writing your name on all of your clothing, it's tax deductible, apparently. This has the stench of audit waiting to happen, especially if you try to get away with this stuff. If you have in the past and you didn't get caught, I'm not going to tell on you, but you're basically telling on yourself when you put up a TikTok like this for the entire world to see. Another guy added a different creator, Nick the CPA. They're getting more and more creative. No, there's also a very specific requirement that it can't be reasonably worn outside of work. This is 100% incorrect. I mean, there are hundreds of comments like this. I know that these videos are catered to someone who's just getting into the self-employment space or the business, you know, trying to work on your finances a little bit more. But the reason why I hate these videos so much is that this could be dangerous if you just see one single TikTok and take it as face value and start copying these people. You could get in a lot of trouble with the IRS, and it's not somebody that I want to mess with at all.
I wouldn't want to mess with the IRS. Like, I submit my thing to a CPA every single year. And yeah, I write, you know, things like, you know, card purchase, Warhammer purchase, YouTube Premium subscription for work. Like, all I do, I have a whole spreadsheet that I do, right? And I just submit it to my CPA, and it's like, cool. Can you write this off or can't you write this off? If you can't write it off, cool. That's fine. What do I owe at the end of the year? And I've owed the past 2 years doing this, and I'm going to owe going into this next year. That's just part of the business, right? But then again, especially when I was working in finance and I still owed federal $100, I'm just like, nah, I will be more than happy to have more control over my life. I am also in a very fortunate position to be able to do what I do, right? Don't get me wrong. A lot of stressors, come down to like people having expectations of, why don't you have a house yet? Why don't you, have your own living situation again yet? It's like weird how it's the external stressors of very hard things for even people who make, you know, double of what I make, even triple of what I make. There's people who make triple what I make who have trouble even affording houses or getting approved for houses, especially when people are buying them cash, right? I'm very fortunate to be doing what I do. And, you know, it's been practicing that gratitude recently, which I thank everyone for coming out. I do appreciate it. Like, it's wild to, I think, so this actually, I will say, so this has been a big criticism, right? Especially throughout really the past year of, what authority do I have to speak on something like this? Where when I'm reacting to something, this is reasonably what it is, right? When I'm reacting to something, I'm not expected to know the things. Like, I have some like familiarity with finance here, right? And still looking at some of this, it's kind of wild, but I'm not expected to have that familiarity. When you look at someone like this who is just giving unsolicited, objectively wrong tax advice, that's what I was worried that I was doing. But clearly there's a difference here, right? But I also make the relevant disclosures. Go speak to your tax advisor. Go speak to your financial professionals. Look, if something works for you, if something doesn't work for you, come to the best educated decision for your situation, right? These people are not making these disclosures, at least from the clips the clip shown, right? And I think that that's been my fundamental misunderstanding. It's why I watch things like this. It's a constant learning game for me. I am not this. And I will continue to do my best to try to make sure I'm giving what information and insight that I can, but not be super stressed out to the point where it's I don't know anything about what I'm talking about, and it kind of eclipsing any enjoyment I or anyone else could get out of it.
We have another clip right here. Girl Math is opening a brand new LLC for $200, then applying for a $50,000 zero interest business loan, then using it to invest in your first Airbnb property for $10,000 and paying off the funding with the profits from that Airbnb. I think that's particularly funny right now because with the struggles in the economy and the increased cost to own a house right now, own property, people running Airbnbs are shutting them down left and right. But before I talk about that a little bit more, you can't just open up an LLC for $200 and magically get $50,000 with a zero interest loan. Do you know how catastrophically bad that would be? It'd be another Chase Bank glitch. Clearly, it's not as...
Oh my God, bro. Every time I hear about that Chase... people are getting sued for that, right? Last I checked, Chase was actually filing legal action against people who did that. Like I said was going to happen. Because they literally committed check fraud. Right?
easy as this clip seems. The other part with the Airbnb, shocker, if you look at the description, Roxanne Airbnb mentor. Hashtag girl math, hashtag passive income, which it's not passive income. Airbnb arbitrage, another red flag there. Business funding, and then the For You page. But going back to the problem with Airbnb in general right now, many areas in the country are starting to change laws to ban Airbnb in places like that. Even if that isn't the case, the increasing costs are actually making hotels a pretty viable option at the end of the day now. So let's
100%. Going down to Oklahoma at the end of this month, because I'm doing these reactions quite before I actually go down to Oklahoma. Yeah, looking at Airbnbs, and I'm just like, this stuff is expensive, especially hearing that some of them will have cleaning lists for you, extra cleaning fees, you know, and like obviously if you trash it or like leave it pretty dirty, right? That makes sense, right? If you're partying and, you know, leave a bunch of beer bottles around, like I totally get that, stain the carpet. But like, mate, I'll just use a hotel at this point. For all intents and purposes, I will just use a hotel. Airbnb is just, I can't justify, even if I had disposable income, it's like, why would I do that? Why would I do an expensive Airbnb with doing chores when I'm traveling when I could get a hotel for less of a price, like for cheaper? The math doesn't quite make sense to me.
People are using it, and of course, trying to buy some property in 2025 to be able to profit off of it through renting it out is way harder than this person makes it out to be. But as you all probably already knew, start making $5,000 to $10,000 a month with Airbnb, and she just ends up trying to sell you another course. We have another comment here. The only consistent method to getting rich quick in America is to convince others that you have the secret to get rich quick in America. I mean, picture perfect example was that last clip there. Here we have another one of a guy just yapping. He's manipulating and changing time now. Oh man.
What?
So I measure time. I've compressed and condensed time. I've bent it. My day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago.
What?
My second day.
Oh my God. Oh yeah. 300 years ago, you know, a very more archaic time where you know, man live in cave and man go hunt and woman make food. What? maybe 3,000 years ago, but even then, right? We had Egypt doing Egypt things, what, 5,000 BCE? Bro, what did this man... No. There's no way this is real.
See for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm going to kick your butt. Stack it up over a year, you're toast. Stack it up over 5 years, my entire life is different than it would have been otherwise.
This guy has...
Okay. I think I understand, as cracked as this man is, as much as I wonder what he's on and how much it costs. That's got to be a lot. That's got to be a decent amount per gram of what he's getting. That man's on something. I understand what he's trying to say, but he's doing it in this very podcast tech bro way that make like pause pod the tent, right? This makes my brain hurt. So if I were to apply this logic to what I was doing, so my day, quote unquote, would start 40 minutes ago when we started this reaction, and then I will go for the next 5-ish hours. And once I am finished with all my reactions for Kip Reacts at the end of that 6-hour mark, my next day, quote unquote, begins. And then at that point, I will be working on, I don't know, say, because Kip Gaming, right? The gaming channel, which is mostly just Lord of the Rings Online at this point. But like, right? Like then I would spend 6 hours on that. And then after that 6-hour period of time, then I'd maybe work on something like, one of the Yu-Gi-Oh projects I want to work on, or maybe a Pokemon project I want to work on. And then, that fourth, sure, you're going to need sleep at some point. I guess he's maybe sleeping only 6 hours. No, wait, 6, 6, 6, 8, 18. Yeah, so the last 6 is probably going to be sleep, right? 24. I understand what he's trying to say, and that's where he gets into the I work 21 days a week. First off, if you can bend time and manipulate time to make people work 21 days a week, I'm sure there are many big corporations that would pay you a handsome sum to manipulate time for them, okay? I'm just going to go out there and say that. He's just talking about time management in the most bass-ackwards way I have ever heard. Like, I understand what he's saying. I get what he's trying to get across. But this ain't it, Captain.
Somehow convinced himself that just working all day turns into him changing time and completely changing his life. I feel like this is a clip many people have seen before because everybody just started clowning on this guy. So this is a prime example of a guy just saying a whole load of nonsense on a podcast. I mean, the host was completely silent through it, just staring at him. I knew he must have been thinking, like, what are you talking about, man? But most of the time, the hosts don't call these people out because they know that they're getting clips and they're going to get views and in turn money from these gurus just saying a load of nonsense on their podcast. We got another comment here. When I was 16, I saw an advertisement in the newspaper for information on starting an envelope stuffing business. I sent my money to this person, and a few weeks later, I received a few sheets of paper on how to put an ad in the newspaper advertising an envelope stuffing business. So this guy got even during the times of the newspaper. So clearly this is nothing new. There's been charlatans since basically the beginning of time. We're just in the social media age where the reach is unbelievable because almost everybody has access to the internet that could connect you with anybody around the world.
When I broke up with my ex.
Yeah, so that was actually a conversation that I was partially having earlier today. It didn't quite get to that point, but the conversation ended up revolving around what is the duty of expectation in the digital age, right? When we are in the digital age where you can hear about things happening seconds after they do in real life, right? Whether that's conflicts, whether that's major events, whether that's business decisions, whether that's lawsuits, etc., right? What is the duty of expectation? And I think that it's an interesting conversation to have, and I think it's a subjective answer because reasonably, no one can know everything. That's just not how that works, right? Something is going to slip through the cracks, or they're going to hear a biased account of something. That's just how that works, right? But also there is like reasonably you should know some basic stuff, right? Like TikToker who ended up spraying pesticide on Walmart produce, right? He got in trouble for it. I don't know what the follow-up was, but I know he got in trouble for it. Oh, it's just a prank, bro. Reasonably, you should know that this is a no-go, whether that's social conditioning, whether that's social etiquette, whether that's, hey, are pesticides harmful? What does Google AI have to say about that, right? Like, what exactly is the duty of knowing in the internet age? And that's a little bit more macro. That's outside the scope of this video, but it's an interesting thing to think about.
I took a one-way trip to Thailand, and I had like a $10,000 Nordstrom credit card, and I was like, just it. Take out all the money from the card. I went crazy.
How much did you had in debt at the time?
15,000.
No money saved up to pay for
No,
that.
I got a call from like attorney. They're like, there's a judgment against you. We're suing you and all this stuff. And I never took it serious. Like, I tore up the paper.
Escapism a little bit.
So I found this law firm, and they
Offer you bankruptcy.
yeah, it was gonna be like $2,000.
That's the price generally, yeah.
I was like, can you lower it? And so it's like $1,690. The judge asked me questions. They had already trained me and taught me what to say.
How much debt do you had at the time?
$28,000.
Judgment comes in March, 6 months in the process. What's the outcome?
It got completed. Like,
Wiped out.
Wiped out, yeah. Like all my accounts and my lease, my car lease.
So you get a second shot at life, pretty much.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that this is a thing. I feel that this right here, when people complain about bankruptcy and the abuse of systems, right here, this feels like the abuse of the system. This is wild that you can get legal notice and just, this doesn't matter. Just, I'm not even going to bother. Just throw it in the shredder. Wild.
So this clip I really didn't like because she just pulled the plug at $28,000, which I'm not saying is a small amount of money. However, when we look at the credit card debt videos and people deciding to go bankrupt, they do it because they are in way worse of a situation. I don't like when people file for bankruptcy either way because I think it is just a reset switch, and many of the people who file in the first place end up doing it over and over and over again. And there's been a lot of examples on my channel. So many people don't learn their lesson. They just think that it's a free way out. So I can spend all that money and go to Thailand and rack up thousands of dollars worth of debt, and then not even $30,000 in the hole. I'll just reset it. It'll be fine. And I'll do it over and over and over again. And I'll never be financially ahead. We can look at some of the comments. Filing for bankruptcy for $28,000 is insane. 28K and filed for bankruptcy. Please don't glamorize filing for bankruptcy. The next clip, so many people, including myself, thought that this had to be satire, but apparently it's not.
All right, thanks. Before we get into this, because this is going to hurt my brain, on bankruptcy, look, if you're in a situation and you're struggling and you require it, I personally am not going to be a judge on that, right? It's whatever. When people start judging, and I think this is reasonable, is if it's used as a get out of jail free card and it's an abuse of the system. Allegedly, of course, there are people out there who, let's say, they're in a relationship and, the husband files for bankruptcy, and then 7 years later, the wife files for bankruptcy, and 7 years later, the husband files for bankruptcy again. If you're in a loop like that, I mean, that needs to be treated as a one and done approach. However, there are reasons why it's not treated as a one and done approach, and I understand those reasonings, especially when you get up to the corporate level, right, where bankruptcy is less we're out of money and more like, hey, we need a pause, we need to restructure, right? Red Lobster went through bankruptcy, did it not? The whole Russian Badger meme spawned from that too, right? Like the whole back and forth, right? It's such a touchy subject. Because if people are truly in need, or small businesses are truly in need, yeah, I think it's fair that, they should have the ability to say, let's get a second shot at this. But, much like Doctor Strange in the MCU holding his finger up, the one, right? Holding a single finger up, or Spider-Man from Family Guy, everybody gets one, right? Like, it should very much be a last resort, because it can snowball into abuse of the system, and then that makes it harder for people who are actually struggling to actually access bankruptcy as an option, right? And then thus there's also a stigma around it and stuff like that, right? It's a hard one to talk about, and I know everyone's going to have their different opinion on it. At the end of the day, come to your educated opinion, right? Whatever you believe, as long as you can justify it, as long as it's a pretty, you've reasonably done your due diligence to research and think about it, right? It's one of those that is an option. It's how do you prevent abuse of the system?
You're paying your rent this month. Go ahead and sign here. It's just going to ask you a couple of questions.
No.
A tip? I'm not tipping my landlord.
So you'll tip a barista who pours overpriced coffee into a cup, but not the guy who's on call 24/7 to make sure you have a safe home.
That's if they get back to you. Definitely have had situations, and I'm sure many people have as well. Hey, the washing machine's out. Hey, the oven's doing something. Hey, we need the new microwave. Or hey, you think the place isn't heating up properly, and then you're left on red for how long? Or, oh, well, I'll get to you. I'll send a specialist out. And then 2 weeks go by and they haven't sent a specialist out. Is it every landlord? No. But, like, that's not how the business model works. Especially, might I add, and I do have a bone to pick with a lot of landlords on this specifically, stop using Zelle, Venmo, and Cash App to take payments. Set up your web portal, okay? We all know what you're doing. We all know the tax implications of you taking rent via Zelle, Cash App, and the other one I'd mentioned. Like, knock it off. If you're going to refuse someone's check or refuse their money because, well, I need this via Venmo or Cash App, kindly, you are in the wrong business. We know you're doing it for a tax thing. They need to close that tax loophole. You should be taxed just as much as everyone else for that.
I'm not tipping you. This isn't a restaurant.
Okay, so you'll tip an extra 25% for somebody to carry you a basket of chicken wings, but you won't tip someone who responds for after-hours emergency calls? Yep. Well, I guess when it's time for your lease renewal, I'm going to make sure gratuity is included in your rent. It's a little tip I learned from Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
No.
It's so uncomfortable just to watch. But I don't think I really have to tell you, with the 10,000 comments that this video got, that not too many people agreed with this, with rent just constantly going up. We've seen videos previously on this channel with landlord horror stories. I mean, crazy stuff. That now apparently you're supposed to tip and pay even more to the landlord. I mean, just adding on to the existing problem that everybody needs a tip now. You go and grab a drink and food for yourself, walk up to the cashier, and the iPad shows you a 20, 25, or 30% tip when they did absolutely nothing. And I guess the same now for landlords when you're already paying thousands. Some of the comments, the server/barista actually works. Service workers are also making $3 an hour. My landlord never,
depending on your state minimum wage,
fixes anything. My oven hasn't worked for a year, and I mean, there are so many comments like that. I feel like this clip must have been bait just to get the engagement, but they made several continuation videos like this as well. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But now we have the classic course seller on this channel, Grant Cardone, telling you shouldn't save any money.
We're gonna pause before that. Look, I feel bad about this, right? But I'm gonna be transparent. Because I went out to Burger Place recently, and I had to walk up to the counter and I had to go, hey, I would like, this, and this. And it's like, here, this is your total. And when it asked me for a tip amount, I put 0. If I have to go and I went to a Mexican place the other day, right? Because family members wanted Mexican, and they couldn't pay with phone. It's like, cool, here, if you can go ahead and pick this up, we'll just hit you back, right? And so I went over there and I picked it up and I tipped 0. Why? Why would I do that? Because if I have to go and pick it up, or if I have to go and order myself, and yes, I mean, they make the food and stuff, don't get me wrong. But if I'm putting in the work to pick it up, why? Right? Now, it's different if I, in that same Mexican restaurant, went to go sit down and I had my, the wait staff come, and then you're like, hey, hi, what would you like to eat? Would you like to drink? Hi, how was your meal going? Yeah, obviously a tip is going to be, it's going to be there. I have tipped before at that exact same place. If I sit down at a place and I get served, right? Like I have that service, that's what you're tipping. Pizza place that I've gone to, right? Where if I have to order it online and I go pick it up, I'm not leaving a tip. If they deliver it to me, absolutely there's going to be a tip. Now, I guess that there's a little bit of contention if you leave the tip on the online web portal or if you tip the actual driver in person with cash, because one of those, I think, is more on the company side of things. One of those is the actual tip towards an individual, right? So there's a little bit of debate on that. But, it's one of those things you feel scummy for not doing, but especially because of how much of a problem it has become, and as far as I understand the tax implications that tip culture has for businesses, it's one of those where if you provide me a service, I will tip you. And that's not even saying like, well, waitress was kind of grumpy, or, you know, maybe she was having a bad day. I'm going to leave no tip. It's like, sure, I'll just leave maybe a lesser tip, right? Like you can still leave a tip. It's just not the higher amount, right? It becomes a really big thing of like, what is moral, what is ethical. And I think that tipping should reward the people who do actually, not even if they necessarily enjoy their job, but who do go above and beyond, right? Who do actually provide a service. If you're just there for your paycheck, you're there for your paycheck, right? And I mean, this is coming from somebody who like, I mean, I always worked in dish pit and stuff, so I never actually was on the server side of things, but I heard the server side of things, right? And it's definitely frustrating when people don't tip, especially at a sit-down establishment. So, I don't know. That's one of those things that it's a hard one to tackle because of how sensitive the subject can be. Because people definitely rely on tips. At the same time, though, tipping culture has become absolutely insane. And that's where a lot of discourse is going to happen.
Money is stupid. It is ridiculous. The only thing that ever happens to people that save money is they end up losing it. It ends up getting lost. It ends up getting stolen, or it ends up going down in value. But it's never going to get bigger. You save money at the bank, it ain't getting big. We've all been told, save your money, save your money, save your money. Who does that really benefit? I remember I read the blackjack book, How to Play Blackjack. I knew every card to hit. And then I realized everybody at the table had read the same damn book. Everybody's staying on 16s. And this freaking guy's banging 16s against 9s or 16s against 7s. Everything he shouldn't do, he's doing. And he's making all the money. He was the only one not playing by the book.
This is just another...
Oh, this is such a stupid argument, though, because he's literally citing a game of chance. However rigged or not rigged you want to argue this, right? He's citing a game of chance for actual hardcore philosophical life advice. What an absolute tool.
Long-winded way of saying you gotta be different. You don't have to play by the rule book. Don't save any money and you'll be way ahead of everybody else who does save money. I guarantee you this turns into putting all your money into assets, which for him is real estate again, and then you'll be able to make the big bucks. But please, before that, buy my course. However, if you do take Grant's advice and never save any money in your lifetime, you'll be fine if you take the advice for the next clip, because money will just come out of thin air, apparently.
You're gonna want to watch this.
Like, there's a fine line between investing and spending your money and like saving, right? But even then, that's why you have savings products like CDs, certificate of deposits, right? That's why you have things like that. That's why you have high yield online savings accounts. Like, when you're saving money, it's either to make a big purchase. Let's say you want that Ferrari, Bugatti, whatever, right? Lambo, right? Maybe you don't have the full, maybe you're making like, I don't know, say, you know, $100,000 a month, right? And it's like, well, you know, I could take out a loan for this, but I could save up, 3 to 4 months and just buy it outright, however much they are, right? Like, yeah, saving has use case in that, right? Like, I don't like how he's saying that, well, you have to not, I don't like the way he's bringing of, like, you have to not play by the rules to succeed. Sure, that's fair in certain instances. I think there is an argument for that, right? Don't be complacent. Just because someone else does it doesn't mean you have to, right? Like, I understand the logic there. I think it was a really dumb way to word it, though.
Video till the end, because I'm about to share a powerful money mantra that I promise has worked wonders. After I read this mantra the first time, within 3 days, $5,000 came my way. And the second time, I got $1,500 literally within 48 hours.
Right.
You ready to save this video? Here's the money mantra, and I'm telling you, try it. For the good of all and with harm to none, $5,000 is on its way to me. It belongs to me and is used how I choose. I thank the universe in advance and focus on the abundance I already have and the overflow of abundance on its way. I will be surprised at the speed and ease at which it manifests into my life. I expect the money to come to me within a few hours, but no more than 3 days. And so it is.
So the funny part of this, can you imagine someone like Asmongold or some big streamer reacting to something like that? And then they're going to be like, yeah, this is literally not how this works. And then some absolute legend in chat just sends them $5,000 just to prove them wrong, just for the clip. That's why this is funny to me. I mean, look, this is one of those things you could argue is like, you know, it's self-reinforcement, right? You have a picture of a Lambo on your wall, right? Or have a picture of your favorite car on the wall, right? Is it necessarily that you're trying to manifest it coming into your life? Not really. Is it reinforcing yourself into habits because you have your clear goal in mind? I would argue that's more of the case, is it not? Right? That's what this kind of reads to me as. Like, it's just reinforcing yourself. It's not expecting the thing to happen, but it's reinforcing yourself into good habits and what you need to be doing for something like this to happen, right? I see this as being a way to reinforce yourself, not as a way to suddenly manifest money.
If you truly believe this kind of stuff, you have to be in a pretty rough financial situation if you think it just appears out of nowhere. This is getting dangerously close to a video that I made on my second channel where people were paying money, and I mean good money, for spells on Etsy from apparent witches. Crazy stuff with relationships and love spells and money spells. You could win the lottery if you just bought this like $100 spell off of Etsy. It was honestly unbelievable, and I'm getting the very same vibes off of this video. But I mean, I guess I didn't do the mantra. So everybody who's watching this video, if you do it, and if magically $6,500 just appears out of thin air, let me know. I'm going to start doing it myself. But we're going to go back to somebody telling us that we can write off virtually everything in our lives for tax purposes.
So, don't get me wrong. I've had a couple people read tarot. I've had a couple people do their thing. It's one of those things I find interesting. Do I necessarily take stock in it? I mean, that's each their own, each subjective opinion, right? As I understand the concept of tarot, talking to multiple people, it's more of a meditative thing than an actual predictive thing. So I have a more biased view of it. I don't really care, man. Do I expect to say a mantra and get $5,000? No. A Crayfish in chat, however, wanted to do the funny bit. Too bad mobile doesn't expect bits. I'm kind of glad that they blocked you on that one. But it's one of those things where it's like, dude, just don't be weird about it, right? Don't be buying weird spells and stuff off of eBay or whatever, or Etsy, you know. Oh, well, I have this thing and I'll win the lottery. Like, still come to your own educated conclusions, right? If you want to go to Vegas, right? If you want to go gamble, right? Well, obviously within reason. If you're prone to gambling addiction, you should definitely speak to a professional, right? I don't know. It's such a weird one to dissect. Just do you. Don't be weird about it. Make good, cognizant decisions.
Birthday parties. Throw a mastermind event instead. Masterminds are tax deductible. If you're bringing your group of friends together, we should be talking about revenue generating activities. You're still going to have alcohol there. You can still have music there. And
I have seen this.
Instead of just talking about how you're going to party and get turned up, we're going to talk about how we're actually going to make some money, help each other, and push our ideas into the world and into the marketplace. This is how you're able to leverage the tax system while still having fun and turn around and get write-offs for you and your friends. Comment below if you'll be utilizing masterminds as a new way to reduce your tax bill.
It's the same.
So I'm a boomer. I don't really know what the turnt slang is. That one's a little outside of me. I know bad lip reading. One of the Star Wars ones had that get turnt, get real turnt. I have no idea what that means, if I'm being completely honest. Anyways, dude, this is so funny to me. I don't know. I watched this more for the hilarity factor of like, thank you, Wolf. Thanks for the bits for the bit. You didn't have to. No, but point being, right? I don't know. This is one of those things where I watch it for the comedic value because as somebody with a functioning prefrontal cortex, hi, tax advisor, CPA, is this how this works? No, that's not how that works. Cool, that makes sense. And then that's the end of it. There's no arguing. There's what does tax law say? Tax law says this. Cool. Whatever, dude. I don't know, man. It's this hurts.
outros every time. But this is the same guy who also said that he was able to write off his personal chef because of the same reason. If he had his family over and a chef cooking for all of them, if he just starts talking business with his family, boom, everything's written off. There was another clip where he was going on vacation all over the world, and because he shot a few videos with his iPhone, it became a business expense. This is all for his lifestyle and his brand and blah, blah, blah. Again, just another really easy way to get audited by the IRS. A comment from one of you guys goes hand in hand with it. You can write off everything until the IRS does an audit. I highly doubt that any of these gurus actually do what they say, because they would get audited. But for somebody who doesn't know that they could actually get in trouble, I'm worried about them. They're just following some guy that looks super wealthy, has a nice suit on, drives a Ferrari, has a mansion.
Image thing.
He's doing real good in life. He must know what he's talking about. I'll follow his steps and his course, and then boom, you're the one who gets audited and in a huge amount of trouble. I found that there's also a new wave of these gurus that are definitely centered towards the Gen Z and Gen Alpha type of Mr. Beast videos, where you have to be very loud, show all the money you're making, and then have the crazy jump cuts, just the very overstimulating type of videos. Because looking at this at almost 30 years old is just, it makes me feel like an old person.
How much can I make in a week?
It really, I'm gonna probably cringe in a second. I mean, this is honestly why I've been enjoying something like Lord of the Rings Online. Right, don't get me wrong. I've played games like Destiny 2. I've played some very visually intensive games. I don't know. There's something just nice and relaxing and kind of calming about just sitting down and playing something like Pokemon Emerald again, or Pokemon Fire Red, or Lord of the Rings Online. It's hard to describe, right? Like, I don't know. I don't do super well with the overstimulation, especially when I have to like hyper focus. It's why if you've seen like me doing like a hyper intensive game or doing a challenge run, I definitely don't look at chat as often as I can. I really have issues splitting and multitasking. My brand of TISM is very much the hyper fixation and the hyper focus. Like, man, I will hyper focus on something. But like the moment you ask me to talk in a voice call and watch a video, I can't do it. Like it's too much for me. But that's just kind of the state modern media is in, where this is a format that provably does sell. And I do think that there's something interesting about being able to go back to things that were definitely stimulating at one point in time and it being relaxing. Can't wait till when I actually go back to books. I have Aragon that I need to reread by Christopher Paolini. Actual Tolkien, especially because I'm playing Lord of the Rings Online again, actually going back and reading Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King. Even Wheel of Time, got to go back and read Wheel of Time because I only made it to Crown of Swords about halfway through before I stopped at about high school, right? So it's going to be, I think that part of how we fight this for ourselves as well, the overstimulation, the constant, like I'm shaking my leg right now, right? There's definitely some stimulation going on there. I'm definitely someone who definitely shakes their leg. But like, it's okay to dial down the stimulation. It's okay to go back to reading. It's okay to going back to a more simple time, right? Obviously, you have to acknowledge that times have changed, right? Like, this is going to be the meta on social media, but it is okay to take a break, right? I know a lot of people have said, well, Kip, I just can't, I haven't watched all your videos, right? Man, I have 1.7K videos. You're not expected to watch every single one of them. That's not fair. That's not how that works, right? And I honestly enjoy doing what I do, especially when I'm able to take a break. Like, I actually thoroughly enjoy what I do. But if there's one thing I've learned through my time on social media, and as stressful as it can be at time, and honestly just looking at the state of certain things, it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to take a break. Just wanted to make sure I put that in there because it's been a very big thing that I've been reflecting on recently.
Is a 20-year-old full-time day trader. $52,000? Yeah! $52,000. Yeah! Monday. Tuesday. Wednesday was really good. Thursday as well. And today I made $5,481. Look at how pretty
I hate this
looks. I'm gonna cry. Man, you know, I was just a kid, man. I grew up, I had nothing, man. I did all this by myself. Now I'm rich! Anybody can do this. I've been posting videos for 5 years. At some point, y'all gonna start listening to me.
I think the worst part about this is that I believe that it works. You start looking at the comments. How do I start doing this? Because I saw it on my FYP. I've been studying, can't wait to be 18, so he's not even of age to day trade, but he's watching this guy. Another comment that I thought was interesting, I feel like bro's been 20 for 3 years now. It's probably much more lucrative to the younger, more impressionable audience. If you're 20 years old, you're just a little bit older, you're technically an adult, but if you're 30, 35 years old, oh, you're just an old person, you're not like me. But if you're just a couple years showing that you apparently made $50,000 in a week, the younger Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, will probably believe you and then buy your course, even if they're not an actual adult yet, apparently. This next clip I had to put in, but unfortunately I could not find the original, so I had to settle with another Gen Z, Gen Alpha, just fried, overstimulated brain type of clip with two things going on at once.
It's only one.
Oh, not the Subway Surfers effect. I mean, honestly, and that's the thing, is if this dude quote unquote pulled himself up by his bootstraps and did it himself, I mean, more power to him, right? I'm not a big fan of the format. We've reacted to a couple Mr. Beast videos in the past before some of the lawsuits, right? It's just not my kind of content. It just doesn't flow like I want it to. It's just not my thing. And I think this also leads into people, I think this leads into a lot of instant gratification because you see comments, right? Comments about, well, how do I do this? How can I make this happen for myself? And I think a big thing is that people don't want to earn things anymore. So I went to the range yesterday and I dropped easily 200 rounds of 45 ACP downrange with my Kimber 1911. I did make the video. I know I'd promised people, and I will try to make an upload of it soon. Smith & Wesson 500 hurts a little bit. I'm a huge fan of it. I love it. However, I need to wear gloves when I do it because that recoil kind of sucks, especially with that stock grip. The recoil was causing it to go back, and I can definitely feel it on my thumb. I think I have a cut. Yeah, I have a cut on my pinky. I need to wear gloves when I do it. But honestly, I'm a huge fan of the kick. I can't do it in quick succession. I have to put it down and stop. I can't do the full 5 in cylinder, but it's great. Anyways, off topic, because I know I had owed that to some people. So if you're interested, that is currently intact in the Discord. And then I will try to make an edit here at some point. I like it, though. I see why Kentucky Ballistics likes it. But like... So the reason I bring this up in the first place, I brought like 200 rounds of 45 ACP. I went through magazines, plural, of just throwing lead down range. Part of that was to make sure that I'm brute forcing. I'm holding it correctly and stuff, but how can I adjust my grip? How can I adjust my posture? Am I aiming at this correctly? Am I leveling the front sight with the rear sights, right? Am I, hitting the magazine release correctly? If I'm not sure, and that's the thing is like, what if you put different bullets in different magazines? One magazine has 5, one magazine has 3, one magazine has 7 plus 1, right? The full 8. If you're unsure, how do you check safely? You don't point it at yourself, right? You do the whole thing we see in gaming, right? Where you'll twist your wrist to the side to see if the slide's open, you'll twist it over again and then eject the magazine, right? Like, that's me brute forcing experience. And yes, it's expensive, don't get me wrong, especially ammunition, right? Powder inside one precious metal inside another precious metal, it's just going to be expensive. But I've noticed that people want that instant gratification and they don't want to work for things anymore. I'll work to be a high tier raider in a game. I will work and put an effort to be able to learn systems. I will work and put an effort to get better at sword fighting, right? And I think that these comments are indicative of a larger issue where people don't want to work for stuff anymore. I'm not saying you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and, you just need to get good, right? There's a point where you can say get good, right? And it means just get good. Well, how do I go fight this boss? I don't understand. Just get good. Just go fight, go parry Gwyn 5-head, right? As someone who's bad at parrying Gwyn, go parry Gwyn 5-head, right? But like, then you get in the ballistic uses to get good. And that's not what I'm talking about. People need to remember that it's okay to earn things. It's okay to not be a big streamer / influencer who plays a game day one and is already, meta game good, right? Like actual high tier play good. It's okay to not be good. And even then, it's okay if you're never good at certain things. Me, I'm an okay FPS player, whether it's Halo, Halo, whether it's Call of Duty, whether it's Battlefield, right? Destiny, I'm an okay player. You know where my strength lies? Mechanics. I can tell you how to run Howling Blade in Final Fantasy 14, right? Once I have the actual list of buffs and stuff, sure, I could tell you how to run Rift and Lord of the Rings Online. I can tell you how to run the entirety of Root of Nightmares. I can tell you how to do planets solo with two people running planets, right? So even if you're not good at the thing, you can also be good at other things, and it's just having that perspective.
Car you buy and the rest you lease. 150,000 Range Rover. It weighs 6,000 pounds. Section 179 IRS says anything over 6,000 pounds you can write off 100%. You could buy it on December 31st, write it off that year, even though you didn't even drive the car. Boom. $158,000 you get to write it off that day against your earned income if you have self-employment money or an LLC producing other income. I would pay cash for the Range Rover. We did. But the Cullinan that I have is a leased vehicle. I leased it with no money. I put it on a 24-month lease, never longer than that. Whatever the payment is, if you can't handle that payment, don't do it. And then every 24 months I trade that car in. Why do I do a lease rather than own? Because I can write off 100% of that lease payment every month against my business income.
I don't know about that one, Captain. I don't know about that one. This entire clip, just speak to your tax professional, speak to your CPA. Don't take unsolicited tax advice. Like, sure, you can argue I was only in finance for about a year. Look, as someone who worked in finance, you need to be making those disclosures. Because even if I make the disclosures, right, it is still possible that someone takes my advice and then sues me. It is entirely possible. That's not paranoia as much as that's like an actual legal interaction, right? If I say I'm not a financial advisor, I legally can't give financial advice, and then I tell someone to buy some sort of, I don't know, asset or crypto coin or whatever, and they take that advice, they could still come after me for that. That's entirely a legal interaction. There is also the, hey, I'm not a financial advisor, I can't legally give financial advice, proceeds to give financial advice, right? Like, well, I'm not a financial advisor and I can't legally give financial advice, but you, dear viewer, should invest in this stock and this stock because these are going to easily 10x, right? Like that, right? It's why I take what I do very seriously. It's why I make my disclosures. Because, like, sure, don't get me wrong, don't want to get sued. But it's also, like, everyone's situation is different. I also don't have the complete picture, right? As often as I refer to myself as a dingus on the internet, I just don't have the qualifications nor the desire, really, to give people financial advice. You know, hey, I have finance experience, and I don't leverage that to try to change your bias into doing something. It's, oh, he has financial experience. He is going to have a specific way that he looks at this video, right? Like, that's the angle that I'm coming from.
This just turns into another one where everything is apparently a write-off. You buy it, it's a write-off. You lease it, it's a write-off. It's fine if you buy it on December 31st and write off that whole $150,000. I bet there won't be any red flags to be audited. What he also doesn't say about the 6,000-pound vehicle that you are allowed to write off is that has to be 100% for your business. You can't be driving around doing whatever you want and then once in a while you take it on a business meeting. It has to be used just for that, which in turn means you need another vehicle to do your normal everyday life, going to the gym, groceries, whatever you're doing. But that's not nearly as interesting to say to you compared to, oh, I could just write off a whole Range Rover and then I'll get a lease of a Cullinan and I'll write that off too. All of these people make it try to sound better than it actually is, and you take this stuff at face value and implement it in your life and you could get into a lot of trouble. Up next, we have another one of these guys that are basically just calling you a loser if you're not doing as well as him.
All right, I'm probably about to get hella hate for this video, but it's whatever. It is extremely crazy to me that I'm 19 years old on my way back home from the gym, driving a Corvette, and I'm passing 30 to 45-year-old men driving Subarus and Nissans.
I just want to point out, sure, I guess he's coming from the gym, so homeboy's hair is messed up and it makes sense. I want to point out that this man is pulling a Jack Doherty and is taking selfie video, doing internet things while driving. Bro, tell me that you're posting your L without telling me you're posting your L, right? Come on now.
Going to work for 9-10 hours a day. Now, this isn't to hate on anybody that has a job. Like, bro, any motion is better than no motion. You're providing for your family. Like, bro, I salute you, bro. There's actual bums out here. But it's like, I'm doing way less work than them, working way less hours, and making way more money than them. It's just crazy how, like, kids can literally make so much money by doing so little work. And it just blows my mind away that, like, so many more people don't do it, and they're just trapped inside of this, like, mindset that they need to go to college, they need to go get a job, because I guarantee you 80% of these people driving this regular traffic out here went to college, got a regular job, and they're still there today. So, bro, just take that risk. Not everything is a scam, bro. Take that risk. It's like that ass, bro.
The ending.
So here's where I take contention with this. Is this definitely feels very much Nepo baby is a word that comes to mind, right? A phrase that comes to mind. But like, I can't rationalize how people come to these conclusions, right? Like, I know people who've worked on cars. I know people who, you know, they work in the restaurant industry still, because I got out years and years ago, right? I know people who end up trucking cross country. Right? There's many people who watch me from all different walks of life. They do different things. And like, while I'm pretty harsh on myself, right? Like, I still do a job in certain aspects, right? Like, I still show up, put the fries in the bag, put out a reaction, right? Try to be as respectful as I can to the original content. But like, never have I really disparaged, like, yeah, well, if you just work at, in a fast food joint, you're just not trying. Or, well, if you went to, if you're doing cross country trucking, you could do better with your life. Like, where does this come from? Like, this lack of appreciation and like gratitude, right? Like, I don't know how to tell you this, homeboy, but you don't have a gym to go to if these losers, quote unquote, don't show up to open the gym, to staff the gym, right? You don't have food to eat if truck drivers don't bring food to the supermarket you go to, right? You don't get gas in your Corvette if the truckers don't ship the gas to you, right? Like, just do we just... It is a disconnect thing. It absolutely is. And yeah, it's an I'm better than you complex, but it's one of these things I look at and scratch my head, and it's like, don't get me wrong, streaming and doing YouTube has its own stressors, whether, copyright, scheduling, metrics, like, I mean, retention, right? Like, well, retention falls on metrics, right? And it's like, do I stress myself out about that? Because I've been stressed out about it in the past. It's not worth it anymore. Like, I don't understand this lack of basic appreciation. I don't. It's not even I'm better than you complex. I feel that it is genuinely a stunted worldview, right? It is genuinely the person does not know how the world works. You don't have clean tap water without the people who work in water purification and filtration, right? A field in the next 10 years, which is sorely going to need people. Oh, but if you're not an investment banker, if you're not a crypto bro, if you don't hodl and got your diamond hands, right? Well, I guess you don't want diamond hands. But it's like you're suddenly looked down upon. We had the entire shift in the past 80 to 100 years where, you don't want to be a blue collar worker. The white collar workers are where the money is at. That's prestigious, right? Bro, your money spends just as much as anyone else's, okay? The person shipping produce cross country, the person working minimum wage for, washing dishes, right? Their money spends just as good as any finance tech bro. Like, finance and or tech bro, right? Like, oh my God, that is, like, this has to be bait. There's no way this isn't bait.
The ending is perfect. Take that risk. Not everything is a scam, including my course. Please buy my course. That's the one. But yeah, I bet everybody on the face of the planet could become some sort of entrepreneurial course seller like this guy shockingly is. But in the very similar way to the Zoomer Mr. Beast day trader type of clip, this guy is definitely catering to the younger people, probably in high school, getting close to the real world, maybe in that college age. And yeah, you could be just like me, driving around in a Corvette, working way less, making way more money than these bum losers going to work their normal 9-to-5s. Like, it definitely does get tiring after a while, but at least I'm glad I'm starting to see people who are just blatantly making fun of these guys.
If you want to...
I make fun of them constantly. Like, do you know that I'm in the same? I was talking to a friend, and I don't like talking about numbers anymore because I just don't. Me doing what I do, and yes, I owe at the end of the year tax wise. I'm in the same tax bracket as a friend of mine who has a legitimate degree and what do you call it? Legitimate degree and actual like certifications to do what they do. That blows my mind, which once again, I have such an appreciation that I'm in such a fortunate enough situation that I'm very lucky, all things considered. And I can't thank people enough who continue, especially when, you know, I've gotten stressed out. This is one of those things. I also overshare a lot. That's something I've also noted. What I think was a video Zac Rios actually had on one of his channels about people just oversharing on social media, and it was seeing that really put in the, you know, the puzzle piece for me. Because coming from the VTubing community, a lot of people share a lot of different things, right? I remember watching VTuber clips of VTuber and her mom talking about using Sharpies as playthings, if you will. And especially because it's like them and their mother in the same like call. I don't know. It was just weird to me. Like, had we hit a point of oversharing, but I didn't quite have concrete like understanding of it until thus, you know, taking a little bit of time away, reflecting, being able to intake information to formulate opinions and stuff. Bro, I overshare way too much. 100%. Not to say that I need to clam up entirely, right? But things that I do, I could do a little bit less of, right? Absolutely. And that's the whole social media game. That's the whole life thing, really, is learning, taking experiences, and going from there, right? I don't know, man. It's so strange to me just to see things on social media. Like, Homeboy, and you could argue Homeboy is definitely pushing his image. He's pushing his course and stuff, right? It's wild to me, dude.
Build for your kid's future. Take out a credit card in their name, but not to build credit, to destroy it.
What?
I have 18 different credit cards maxed out in my son's name, and his credit score is a dumpster fire.
Okay.
Without paying upfront in cash, he will never be able to buy a home. He will never be able to buy a car, but he will have something priceless. Motivation. I started with nothing. Imagine what my son can do if he starts with less than nothing.
And we're going to finish off.
So when this man gets sent to the funny home, right, the funny retirement home, guess who's not going to visit him? Guess who's not going to want to care for him in his elderly years? And who is going to send him to the funny retirement home, right? I understand that what he's trying to say, what this is trying to come across as, to build credit, to build character. I started with nothing. You will also start with nothing, and you will build up from there. You will sink or you will swim. What a weird... This has got to be bait, dude. That's not how that works. Even so, here's where I'm going to call BS on this, though. So he would have to be joint on the account as well, would he not? So either he's admitting to fraud, where he's just opening up accounts in his son's name without their consent, right? Like, either he's just admitting to fraud, or he's clearly joint on the account, whether he's TRO or was it TRO, NTO, tax reported owner, or non-tax owner. There's a difference. The TRO is kind of like the main person on the account. All subsequent would be NTOs, right? But it still shows up on a credit report, right? I don't like. He's either admitting to fraud or his credit. He also tanked his credit as well. I am actually going to call cap here. I'm going to throw down the hat and just say, nah. This is r/never happened. They can open accounts to their kids under a certain age. I would have to look at that because I don't remember that being an interaction. Not that it can't be an interaction, and I open other financial specialists as well to weigh in on this in what capacities they can. This is something that there's more to this than face value.
And we're going to finish off this video hopefully helping people avoid these bad money advice TikToks, because apparently 27% of adults have taken this advice.
4 ways to tell you're being sold a bad financial product. First off, if you can't explain how it works or generates money to your grandma, it's a bad financial product. If it promises massive returns with limited or no risk, it's a bad financial product. If the marketing or the salesperson resembles an early 2000s infomercial, it's a bad financial product. If it's being sold with an artificial sense of urgency, it's a bad financial product. Please, I promise you, you don't need whatever they're selling or whatever is being advertised in your financial life. Run or scroll away.
So unfortunately, I feel like I can make these videos into the end of time. There are tons of new gurus that pop up every day, but hopefully this helps at least somebody out there to not get duped and lose a whole ton of money or possibly losing everything to gambling like that earlier comment we saw. But that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.
What a wonderful video. Thank you, Zac Rios, for putting out another banger. I absolutely loved this. Hopefully you did as well. Hopefully you found some sort of insight in this. Maybe someone new to watch. I like watching. I've been watching a lot of his videos recently, and he puts out a lot of good ones. I've loved his discussions on the car market. As somebody who's not a huge car guy, it's been very interesting to watch his perspective, and just kind of have someone pretty grounded. Right, on social media, there's so many people who are trying to hawk you a product, who are trying to influence you, and you could argue, sure, this is trying to influence you a certain way, right? But I think it's in a good way, right? So come to your own educated conclusions. Come to the best solution that you have for your situation. Make sure you're speaking to and listening to people who have the relevant certifications and experience, and just do what you can each and every day. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one.